Think about the last time you had peanut butter. Maybe it was on toast this morning. Maybe in a protein bar after the gym. Maybe straight from the jar at midnight because, honestly, nobody is judging you for that. Peanut butter is one of the most consumed foods in the entire United States. The average American eats about 3 pounds of it every single year. But here's the thing that almost nobody knows about that jar sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now. The peanuts inside it did not grow on a tree. They did not hang from a vine. They grew underground, buried in the soil. And pulling them out of the ground at harvest time is one of the most fascinating, most precisely timed, and most mechanically impressive operations in all of American agriculture. The United States harvests 5.9 billion pounds of peanuts every single year. Today, we are going inside that harvest, the science, the machines, the people, and the reason this humble underground nut is one of the most important crops on the planet. Let's go. The United States is one of the largest peanut-producing countries in the world, and within the U.S., the crop is concentrated in a specific region that farmers call the peanut belt. This stretches across the sandy soils of Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Virginia, the Carolinas, and into parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. Georgia alone produces nearly half of all the peanuts grown in the entire country, which is why it is sometimes called the peanut state. The industry generates billions of dollars annually and supports hundreds of thousands of jobs across farming, processing, transportation, and manufacturing. And yet, most people have never once stopped to think about how peanuts actually get from the ground to their kitchen. That changes today. Before we get into the harvest, you need to understand something about the peanut plant that most people find genuinely mind-blowing the first time they hear it. A peanut is not actually a nut. Botanically speaking, it is a legume in the same plant family as beans, lentils, and peas. But what makes it even more unusual is the way it grows. The peanut plant starts above ground, like most crops, growing into a small, bushy plant about 18 inches tall with bright yellow flowers. After those flowers are pollinated, something extraordinary happens. The fertilized flower bends downward and literally pushes itself into the soil. The flower stem, called a peg, drills down into the ground, and the peanut pod develops underground in the dark, buried 1 to 3 inches below the surface. This means the same plant is doing two completely different things at the same time, growing its leaves and stems above ground in the sunlight while simultaneously burying its fruit underground in the dark. There's nothing else quite like it in common American agriculture, and this underground growth habit is exactly what makes harvesting peanuts so uniquely challenging and so uniquely fascinating. Peanuts are planted in late April and May across most of the American growing regions, once soil temperatures reach at least 65 degrees Fahrenheit consistently. The seeds are planted about 2 inches deep in rows, and within 10 days, the first green shoots begin pushing up through the soil. Over the next 4 to 5 months, the plant grows, flowers, and sends its pegs into the ground to develop pods. The entire growing season, from planting to harvest, takes approximately 120 to 160 days, depending on the variety and the region. During that time, the crop needs consistent moisture, warm temperatures, and soil loose enough for the pegs to penetrate and the pods to swell. The sandy soils of Georgia and the Carolinas are ideal for exactly this reason. Loose, well-draining, warm, and deep enough to let the pods develop without resistance. Getting the soil management right across an entire field for an underground crop is a level of precision that most people would never associate with growing something as familiar as a peanut. Knowing exactly when to harvest peanuts is one of the most critical and one of the most difficult decisions a peanut farmer makes all year. Harvest too early, and the pods are not fully mature. The peanuts inside will be small, have poor flavor, and yield far less per acre. Harvest too late, and the pods begin to overmature, detaching from the pegs underground, which means when the farmer tries to pull the plant out of the ground, the pods stay buried and are lost forever. There is no second chance. The window of peak maturity for a peanut crop can be as narrow as 1 week on either side. Farmers use a specific tool called a hull scrape method to determine maturity. They take sample pods from different parts of the field, scrape the outside of the hull, and examine the inner surface. The color progresses from white to yellow to orange to brown to black as the pod matures, and the farmer is looking for a specific distribution of colors across the sample that tells them the crop is at peak maturity. It is equal parts science and experience, and the best peanut farmers develop a feel for this assessment that takes years to build. When the timing is right, the harvest begins in a two-step process that is completely different from almost every other crop. The first machine used is called a peanut digger, or inverter. This machine runs along each row, slides two angled blades beneath the plants about 6 inches underground, lifts the entire root system out of the soil, shakes it vigorously to remove as much dirt as possible, and then flips the plant upside down, inverting it so that the pods that were buried underground are now sitting on top, exposed to the sun and the air. The plant is left lying in the field in this inverted position for 2 to 3 days, sometimes longer if weather permits, to allow the peanuts to dry down from about 45 to 50% moisture at harvest time to around 18 to 25% moisture, which is the range needed for safe combining. This drying process is critical. Peanuts that are too wet when they enter the combine are prone to mold and spoilage. This field drying period is one of the most nerve-wracking times of year for a peanut farmer because rain during the drying window can severely damage or even destroy the entire crop. After the drying period, the second machine moves through, the peanut combine. This machine straddles the inverted plants lying in the row, picks them up, and uses a series of cylinder bars and concave screens to separate the pods from the vines. The pods are carried up into a large hopper on the combine, while the vines, now stripped of their pods, fall back to the ground to be incorporated into the soil. A modern peanut combine can harvest 2 to 3 rows simultaneously and process enormous volumes of peanuts with remarkable efficiency. But the machine requires constant monitoring because the threshing action that separates pods from vines is intense, and if the settings are wrong, it can crack or damage the pods, reducing their market value significantly. The farmer or operator has to continuously watch the quality of the peanuts coming into the hopper and adjust the machine settings in real time based on what they see. It's skilled work dressed up in the look of a machine operation. From the combine hopper, the freshly harvested peanuts go into large wagons fitted with drying systems, propane-heated fans that force warm air up through the peanut mass, continuing to reduce moisture down to the 10% level required for long-term storage and processing. Moisture management doesn't end at the field. It continues for days after harvest in these drying wagons, and then in storage facilities where temperature and humidity are carefully controlled. Get the moisture wrong at any stage and you risk aflatoxin contamination, a naturally occurring mold toxin that can make peanuts unsafe to eat. Every load of peanuts that enters the processing system is tested for aflatoxin before it is accepted, and any load that fails the test is rejected entirely. Food safety in the peanut industry is taken with absolute seriousness because the stakes of getting it wrong are severe. The people who grow peanuts in America are predominantly family farmers, multi-generational operations in rural Georgia, Alabama, Virginia, and the Carolinas that have been growing peanuts on the same land for 2, 3, and sometimes 4 generations. Peanut farming is not dominated by massive corporate agribusiness the way some other crops are. It's personal, it's generational, it's communities of farming families who know their soil intimately, who watch the sky with practiced anxiety every September when the crop is drying in the field, and who carry the weight of decisions that can mean the difference between a profitable year and a devastating one. The seasonal labor that supports peanut farming, the workers who help with planting, scouting, and the physically demanding harvest support operations are overwhelmingly Latino agricultural workers, many from Mexico and Central America, whose contribution to keeping this industry running is as essential as the machines and the soil. The challenges facing American peanut farming are real, but the industry has shown remarkable resilience. Climate variability is making the precise timing of harvest more difficult, with unexpected rainfall during critical drying windows becoming more common. Input costs for fuel, fertilizer, and equipment have risen sharply in recent years, squeezing margins for smaller operations. And global competition from peanut-producing countries like China, India, and Argentina keeps constant pressure on commodity prices. And yet, American peanuts maintain a quality advantage in the global market because of rigorous food safety standards, advanced production systems, and decades of plant breeding that have produced high-yielding, disease-resistant varieties suited to American growing conditions. The next time you open a jar of peanut butter, or snap open a bag of peanuts at a baseball game, or unwrap a Reese's cup, take 1 second to think about everything that happened before that moment. A yellow flower on a small bushy plant in a Georgia field that bent downward and pushed itself into the ground. A farmer crouching in the dirt with a scraped pod in his hand, reading the colors on the inside of the hull and deciding whether today is the day. A digger inverting thousands of plants in a single morning.
Plants lying upside down in September sunshine, drying towards the right moisture. A combine moving steadily through the rows. Wagons full of peanuts drying through the night. And a family that has done this work for generations, on the same land with the same devotion, season after season. That is not just a snack. That is one of the most extraordinary underground stories in American agriculture.